Right now, AMD and Nvidia are very hot semiconductor stocks to be invested in, but there's a clear winner amongst them, and I'm about to reveal to you in this video how you can make a ton of money. Again, both of these stocks are really good, but there is a clear winner for me based on statistics. So in this video, I'm going to be covering the fundamentals, the technicals of the business, and what I see happening next in terms of its stock appreciation. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about the catalyst that I see happening for these stocks. So get ready, I'm about to flood your pockets with a lot of cash. All right, so let's talk about AMD. Right now, AMD is sitting at $156 per share, and the stock has had really good momentum. In the 1 month alone, this stock is up 23%. That is a fantastic return. And by the way, semiconductors are offering the best opportunity for investors to make a ton of cash in the short run. And that's all because of AI. You see, these AI chips are absolutely necessary for all of the innovation that's happening in the market right now, especially the hyperscalers. By hyperscalers, I mean Mag 7 stocks, the big stocks like Meta, like Amazon, like Google. These stocks are buying hand over fist AI chips, and AMD is benefiting like crazy. And there's a really clear difference between AMD and Nvidia, and they both kind of have their own niche. Obviously, Nvidia dominates the entire market, but AMD has a really interesting niche that I want to talk about. The first thing that I want to point out is right here you'll see that the market cap is $254 billion. Now, what I specifically like is that AMD is a lean, hungry, and diversified machine. And it's essentially a value play on semis. Something that I personally like about AMD over Nvidia is everyone and their grandma already knows about Nvidia, right? Everyone. But AMD is kind of like that newer play right now that's becoming more popular amongst smart retail investors as well as institutions. And it's for a good reason. It's because the valuation on AMD is really good. Of course, if you take a look at like Nvidia, it's over 4 trillion in market cap, but AMD is at 254 billion. So if you do the math, right, there's a huge value gap that AMD can run. Now, I'm not saying it can run to 4 trillion because of course it is not Nvidia, but it can run 2x. It can double. That means that you can double your money by being invested in AMD. And what's really interesting is an analyst from HSBC, Frank Lee, has doubled his price target on AMD stock to $200 per share. That means that analysts right now are waking up. They're taking their price targets a lot higher. Like you can see right here, finally, there's an upgrade, right? HSBC right here, new price target $200. Another price raise from $152 to $175. That's some good upside. And again, another analyst from $145 to $165 from Citigroup. And what this means is essentially a lot of these analysts finally realizing that AMD is a good opportunity, that they're wrong about the price target, or simply they haven't priced in some of the advances that AMD has and some of the market share that they're taking away from competition such as Intel. Now analysts are finally waking up. And I think this is a really bullish time and a very good catalyst for you guys to be invested in a popular and good stock that has high growth. I'm specifically very bullish on semis. I have been for a very long time. I've been invested in Nvidia. It's been one of the best investments that I have made. Now, AMD dominates in high performance CPUs and its Ryzen for consumers and EPYC for server lines, right? Nvidia, on the other hand, doesn't really make CPUs. AMD directly competes more so with Intel, and they're taking massive market share from Intel. So I'm actually kind of bearish on Intel. I think they're not innovating fast enough and their leadership is not as strong as AMD's. I'm really bullish on AMD specifically because it's a pure play on high performance computing, and their execution is at a very high level based on the research that I'm doing right now into their management, into their high level employees. And I think they're just going to continue to dominate and take market share. And that's going to, not happen at the fastest rate. It's not going to happen overnight. But here in the, rest of 2025 and 2026, I'm very bullish on AMD based on the trend and the growth as well as just overall investor psychology. If you take a look at investors right now, they're very bullish on the stock because they're realizing themselves it's a good opportunity, risk to reward ratio. As you see here on the chart, the stock is just really in an absolute bull run. And the bull run is very strong, guys. You should be on the trend because when you basically are invested in a bull run, as the stock continues to go up, that's called momentum. It's a very simple fact. When I used to work on Wall Street, one of the biggest factors that analysts and specifically quant analysts would look at would be momentum factors. Momentum factors can be a multitude. It could be earnings per share. It could be price action. It could be volume. and there's many others, but for me, the momentum is just overall very strong, multiple factors here. So I think that we're going to break through here on the top end of the Bollinger Band, which would technically, is not that often that would happen, right? The Bollinger Band is a statistical indicator that tells investors how high a stock is likely to go based off of volatility. And right now we're in a very big bull trend. You can see here how the moving average absolutely picked up. We were coming down here quite a bit actually. In AMD, I was a bit concerned about the stock in terms of its price action because look, I've known this is a good business to be invested in, right? I've called, by the way, a lot of people thought I was stupid. They were saying, oh, Henry's a moron. He's saying buy leaps on AMD. But you can see here how you just get such a fast recovery. When there's a good stock with a good business, you look at the price action, even if it's going down, it's eventually going to come up. And that's just basic math. It's basic business logic. If a company is actually a good business, it will eventually come up. That's the biggest lesson that you can take away is don't always look at price action. If a company, it just continues to go down, that doesn't mean that it's a bad company, right? The stock can come down for weeks, in months in a row. It doesn't mean that the business itself is broken. And that actually is completely false. It's a myth. So I was a bit concerned with investor psychology here as AMD was coming down. And I didn't know when we were going to come up. Obviously, we had some Trump tariffs as an issue earlier this year. But now you can clearly see we've had such a fast recovery and a lot of investors have literally printed hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now I think the trend will continue. So overall, I am bullish on AMD as a pure play on high performance computing, as well as just honestly AI. Like AMD is a pure play on global demand for faster, more powerful chips across gaming, cloud, and AI. And these are the biggest factors and the biggest trends that are happening in the market right now. All the GDP growth right now is honestly from AI. And it's because AI has such a huge impact on the labor force and it allows employees and businesses to produce a lot more efficiently, faster, and better. And that's just huge for the overall economy. That's why I'm bullish for 2025. There's a massive opportunity, and you should be taking advantage of this opportunity right now, because if you can skyrocket your wealth, you will get way faster to retirement. They want to retire as fast as possible, but it usually doesn't happen, right? Unless you're smart, unless you actually invest properly. That's why I'm making these videos. Hopefully that you are subscribed to this channel, because the content that I'm putting out is absolutely fire. It is life-changing information. And AMD's market cap, again, I said it's at 250. Even if in the next 3 to 6 months, I think it could be like 300 billion, right? But we're on the trajectory to 500 billion. We're on that trajectory. And with their AI roadmap, there's a high probability that they're just gonna have a high return that's gonna outperform S&P 500. Especially if you look at tech companies that are innovating, the growth of tech in general, specifically semiconductors, is far outpacing the S&P 500. So that's probably the best opportunity if I was looking to scale my portfolio really fast. If I was like one of you guys, maybe you have $50,000, $100,000, and you wanna scale that to like $250,000, $500,000, or even you want to become a millionaire, then the most important thing that you can do is invest in high growth companies. You're not going to get rich off of, the slower growth stuff, and that just takes way too much time. At the same time, I am not a fan of taking on too much risk. When you take on too much risk, you may risk money that you need, right, for money that you want. And that is a big mistake as well. So for me, the risk to reward ratio is very important. And what makes me different from a lot of other coaches, other option coaches out there, is I'm focusing on risk management a lot. Like for me, position sizing in AMD is very important. AMD just launched a chip called the MI350, and that's their first serious chip for AI. And I've already been saying that this chip is already being used, it's already in the market, and it's very solid. But there's also a next chip, the MI400. And this is where things get absolutely crazy. AMD says their new chips will be 10 times more powerful, guys. That's 10 times, right? 10 fingers. Not 10%, okay? Don't mistake in what I'm saying. Not 10%, 10x. So that means that the stock will likely blow up. It's not really an if, it's just really a when. It's when the stock will blow up. And also, the reason why the MI400 is so important is because it directly plays into the innovation that AMD is going for and their market share. Their market share really depends on the chip performance that they have, as well as the chip price. And this really matters right now because Nvidia basically, they do own the AI chip market. Of course, AMD is trying to compete, but It's not that easy when you have a company like Nvidia that dominates. But Nvidia's chips are super expensive. They are not, good for pricing. Of course, the hyperscalers can afford that. They don't care. They just spend the top dollar to buy Nvidia chips. But there's a huge market. It's not just about hyperscalers. There's applications to like literally cloud. There's applications to gaming. There's applications to healthcare. There's so many applications for AI chips. And AMD is about to do something very smart. They're going to be selling a chip that's just as powerful, maybe even better than Nvidia's chips. However, they're doing it cheaper. And that's really important because I think that if you look at the hyperscalers, of course, yeah, they're super rich. They have tons of money. They don't care about pricing. They're not price conscious, right? Economics 101, pricing elasticity. They don't care. They're elastic, right? They don't care. That you can raise the price by 20%. They're like, okay, fine, whatever. Here's a check. Give me the chips, right? AMD though will be basically taking some market share from everyone else, not the hyperscalers, okay? Everyone else will be able to afford AMD chips more. And this is just massive. This is massive because if you can build an iPhone, you can, have the best gaming laptop, if you can buy chips for your, healthcare devices, etc., that are much cheaper, then obviously businesses want cheaper. Everyone likes money and people are not stupid. They want to save money. So if it makes business sense, there's going to be more adoption. And that's just basic economics 101 and market adoption and economies of scale, right? Companies want to scale, reduce their costs so they can, build better businesses. So right now, I think we're going to get a bull run in AMD and we're going to hit $175 per share within the next 3 to 6 months because we're kind of having like a Tesla moment. So just like Tesla shook up legacy automakers with smarter, more efficient tech, AMD is lining up to disrupt Nvidia's dominance the same exact way. So companies did not really see Tesla coming. Tesla came in and they're like, boom, they took a lot of market share, and obviously Tesla is a massive, big company. And AMD is already a very big company, but they're going to continue to take market share. And I keep saying that because I really want you guys to understand how big that is for a company and how big it is for their future. Now, let's talk about Nvidia because a lot of you guys also have Nvidia, and Nvidia has been on a very big bull trend as well. This stock has literally made anyone like tons of money. People have become millionaires, like deca millionaires from Nvidia. However, it's had a little bit lower performance than AMD in the last 1 month. So the stock is up 18.5%, and in the last 6 months, the stock is up 25%, but the trend is a lot more clear. So unlike AMD that has more volatility, Nvidia has less volatility despite still having, of course, a lot of fluctuation. The pattern is much more clear with Nvidia. So you can kind of say that Nvidia is an easier play in terms of risk management for an investor to just buy and hold, whereas AMD is a bit more volatile, but has obviously, higher returns in the short term. So what I'm tracking right now is I'm really paying attention to Nvidia's forward guidance because, to be honest with you, when companies continue to go up in price, you do have to be more cautious. Like you just have to, turn your thinking cap on and understand that stocks still follow basic principles of, the world, mathematics, physics, statistics. And a stock can't just continue to go up to the moon, right? It still has some gravity, right? That's just how it works. So as the stock becomes more expensive, I'm becoming a bit more cautious. And, I think that right now we're in a very important point that we need to understand how much more growth does Nvidia have? Does it have AMD growth right now, or is it like fully valued? So for that, I'm trying to understand further myself, more guidance from management and any upward revisions that I see from analysts. Of course, the revenue is absolutely amazing at $45 billion, but I also want to see them continue to deliver the goods. I want to see them continue to beat earnings, and that's really important. If you look at the AI growth mix right now, I'm really paying close attention to data center revenue plus inference adoption as Blackwell systems start landing. That's the most important right now because that's what's driving their revenue growth. And as much as I want to say, like, look, on the bottom line, it's really important to have profits. I don't think investors really care about that right now. They really care about just top line revenue growth for Nvidia. They just want to see Nvidia to continue to dominate. So that's going to be a really important metric. And, just looking at geopolitically, China and Middle East have been a bit of a drag. They've been a bit of a friction point for Nvidia. So that's been something very important. But there are, ways that they are going to be selling into China. And of course, they have lots of relationships with the Middle East as well. So to be honest with you, I'm bullish on Nvidia given enough time, because I'll just prove it to you with literally one sentence. If you look at what they're priced at in terms of their 2028 earnings, they're priced at 17 times price to earnings. Please, just think about that for 1 second. If you think about 17 times price to earnings, do you know what the S&P 500 is at? S&P 500 is historically about 20 plus. So that means that Nvidia, a high growth stock, will be trading for less than the S&P 500 in 2028. So whatever happens from now, maybe till the next 3 months, I don't know. It's tough to predict, but I'm telling you, by 2028, this stock is also going to gain a lot of value. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Nvidia above 5 trillion in, likely the next 6 months. And this stock basically went way past 4 billion like a lion chasing a gazelle, right? This stock was like, 4 billion ain't nothing for me. I meant 4 trillion. 4 billion, that was a long time ago. 4 trillion, it crossed out a long time ago. So I can see the stock heading to 5 trillion. And the biggest catalyst right now is really August 27th, their earnings event. So August 27th isn't, that close. We still have over a month. We have about 5 weeks until then, but I'm trying to help you get in early. I'm trying to help you essentially think about Nvidia as a future investment well before earnings, because if earnings do well, the stock will go up a significant amount, and I would be invested in Nvidia right now. I think you'd have to be crazy not to be invested. Specifically, just look at their strategic positioning. They have so much dominance in the market. Of course, the valuation is pretty good, but the dominance is absolutely really strong as well. Like they own 90% or like roughly 90% of the Gen AI training compute. That all sits on Nvidia silicon, right? So it's all like the entire industry is basically on Nvidia at the moment. 80% of the live inferences still learn and are stacked on Nvidia AI chips. And if you look at competitors, I mean, we got a little bit of AMD, but honestly, it's very difficult to compete with Nvidia. They're not just really selling shovels in the AI gold rush. They really own the entire total factory. They're the entire infrastructure. So, it's very hard to get away from them. And I think that that's why the company is going to continue to dominate. Obviously, it's the biggest by market cap in the entire world. This is the most valuable company in the world. So I think there's only one more way that it's going to go up. There's only the same way it's going to go up, right? It's going to continue. And also, they're doing some financial engineering. So when I look at AMD as an investment versus Nvidia as an investment, I actually like Nvidia because they have such strong cash flow that means that they're able to buy back their shares. You guys already know when something is scarce, it is more valuable. That's just simple human nature and just simple dynamics with the world, right? Supply and demand. Why does, oil prices go up? Because there's less oil going around, right? For example, if there's a shortage of something, the price will go up. So same thing here. There's going to be more and more shortage or more scarcity of shares for Nvidia as there's an acceleration of buybacks. So basically, they're buying back their own shares, and that's basically financial engineering. They're engineering their own company to be more scarce. That way, investors are benefiting. So that's going to be a long-term good market force for us as investors. And that is really amazing for basically scaling your portfolio. It's amazing for growth of the company. And again, the valuation is amazing, and I'm paying attention to the AI data center revenue. So I don't want to make this video too long. In my personal opinion, when I made this video in the beginning, I told you like what's better, AMD or Nvidia. Personally, there's two types of investors. Someone that just wants like more growth, they're okay with a bit higher risk. AMD is going to be your best bet. If you're kind of more of like a safe investor, then Nvidia is more like priced in, right? The growth is priced in, but I believe that it's going to have like a safer future return. The return might not be as high, but there's also going to be less volatility. But overall, obviously, both of these stocks are a buy, just depending on which of the two that you want right now. So if you believe that we're going to continue to be in a bull market, which I personally do, I would put a decent amount of money into AMD. If you just want to make income, for me, I'm really into income. That's like how you like live a good life. That's how you have freedom. Then Nvidia is also a really good bet because what you can do is covered calls on Nvidia, selling puts. You can actually do both. It's called a covered strangle. I've covered that before on my channel, but you can essentially be selling puts, covered calls, running the wheel strategy on Nvidia. If you want to see a video on the wheel strategy that I'm personally running right now on SoFi, which is also a really good stock, then check out this video right here on the screen and make sure that you're subscribed, and I'll catch you in the next one.